Thanks for joining us once again. The focus of our show today is China saved Tesla in round one. We're sort of in round two right now, and the question is, will China now use all of Tesla's IP to destroy the company? This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, like some better ideas on investing and trading, please join us on Patreon. So as usual today, we have about a 6-minute portion of the introduction of our ideas, and the implications of that come, right after that. So there's an interesting story floating about above Tesla and China currently, and that is, will EVs become the new Evergrande? As you probably have heard by now, China had a complete disaster when it came to real estate because they currently have 100,000 or 200,000 more apartments than they need, and because of overinvestments. And so all the companies that built those places are now bankrupt, and the money is gone because it's sitting in buildings that are unoccupied and unsold. So as a result, mega bankruptcies, much of that debt is taken on by the government, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with it. The question I'm asking is, why don't they just make sure people aren't homeless and put them in the places so they don't deteriorate unoccupied? I'll stay out of that for this show because it's a Tesla-focused discussion. So, as you also may recall, there was an issue that came up for Tesla, this is maybe 10 years ago, and that is that Elon really wanted the rear doors of the Model X to work. And he wanted them to work so badly that it kind of put the company in jeopardy because they weren't working and they couldn't get it fixed. And so he really loves the vehicle. As you know, he's only is videoed in that vehicle whenever possible as a way to boost sales. And so Elon loves really cool projects of this ilk. The problem that's popping up right now is we're in a desperate situation. So we already know about Evergrande and the disaster that it was, but there's a huge discussion going on of, wait a second, could electric vehicles be the next Evergrande? And it's an excellent question, but the problem I'm having with that analysis, because it kind of sounds true because the problems they're having with EVs in China and sales, et cetera, right now, is that, guess what? There's an adage in card playing that says that if you don't know who the sucker is at the table, it might be you. And so let's review what's going on. Northvolt is this company that spent billions to build battery factories in the EU. It's one of the Northern European countries. And Elon had requested, because of their rapidly increasing prices on the packs, that anyone wanting to make money should just get into making lithium-ion batteries, and it'll be an easy way to make money. Well, guess what? It didn't work out. Company's bankrupt. It's a nightmare. Why? China. Now, why China? Because all of the basic processing that goes into lithium-ion batteries is done in China. So usually the battery is 40% of the cost of a vehicle. And so it's sort of the most important component. And there's a cost competitive advantage in China. So I've been racking my brain trying to figure out how this is going to work out positively for Tesla over the next 2-3 years. And I'd have to say I have a hard time in doing so, but I'm hopeful. So what's going on is this. What was supposed to happen is that according to the head of the EV sort of industry in China, they had this concept of sort of the catfish. How do we fund companies, have sort of the winners emerge on top? And now we have several or a few healthy companies that remain. Well, that whole logic sounds good, but there's a question that China is asking right now relative to normal capitalist business process, which is, wait a second, the number of EV companies started at 500. It dropped to about 100 that were ongoing concerns. And then just before Tesla arrived, it had started a natural process of shrinking down to perhaps 25 or 30 companies that would make it. So then Tesla arrives, and then all of Tesla's IP from its factories, etc., are now being acquired and redistributed to as many as 100 new EV companies. Even Evergrande had an EV arm, and it might still do so. So what then started happening is these companies were making and producing vehicles. The problem, though, was that they were having issues. And the problem that's popped up is the Chinese government doesn't want to put all these companies out of business, so they've decided to continue providing funding to a large number of companies. That's the primary Chinese government, but also you have sort of regions or states that have decided they're going to take their money and they want to preserve jobs in their local communities. So they're inclined to build as well or fund companies that are sort of what's called in business the living dead. They would be dead if it was on merits only, but because they have access to capital, they're going to stick around. And the problem that's happening right now, which is the core of this video, is when you have living dead companies, because their only goal is survival, they're actually selling vehicles at costs. So how can Tesla, BYD, and other companies still make it if their competitors are at cost on the vehicles they're selling? The answer is, I don't know. Because, the quality of the Chinese vehicles have improved because they're using Tesla's supply chain and they have access to Tesla's factories so they can replicate the manufacturing process. So what's popping up is, let's take BYD as an example, but there are several others. They are producing 70 to 80% Tesla quality vehicles, and they're building them in China, selling as many as they can in China, but then they now have captive audience buyers in places like Brazil, Argentina, Russia, all these different places. Now, what's good for Tesla is that a lot of these vehicles are ending up falling apart in relatively short periods of time, so they're really pissing off the buyers. And by the way, this includes Africa. So one of the things that's been going on is that all of the Belt and Roads recipients of cash, be it Africa, be it Southeast Asia, be it Latin America, all of those cash beneficiaries are now in a tough position, which is, wait a second, we loaned you this money for infrastructure, you can't afford to pay us back. But this means that you can't have any tariff controls on EVs or other vehicles that we're shipping that are being manufactured by our people in China. So now those countries are in a weird position. They're getting horrible vehicles that are breaking down, blowing up, all kinds of issues, but they still have to allow the Chinese to come in. One of the elements of how this works is actually in Peru. They have these canning facilities for seafood. And prior to the deals they did with China relative to port facilities, they had some autonomy. But now that China has come and invested a lot of money there, large fleets of Chinese vehicles Chinese ships are coming in and going out into their territorial waters collecting every type of fish and then taking it back to China, selling and eating it, in essence depleting the population to zero. So when there's nothing left, obviously they can't fish anymore, but also what about the fishermen for Peru and those industries? Well, they're done. So right now, it's my belief that Tesla's in a tough shape because China is really desperate for jobs, and they're desperate for any type of industry that consumes a lot of the unemployed people that are in China. And they've identified, obviously, technology, obviously, EVs as one of the ways to provide the jobs needed to fuel the Chinese economy. So I've been asking the question, how will they get out of the Evergrande and other bankruptcies relative to real estate? And the answer is, you're the solution. By those products being sort of dumped in third and first world places, China can now sort of sell its way out of a disaster. And in the process, they're creating a disaster because, so the EU and the US have put tariffs in designed to make sure that the Chinese dumping process doesn't wipe them out. So I don't see how China can allow half the EV companies in the industry to go bankrupt. I do believe that they will continue to fund those entities, and they have to find places to sell because people don't have jobs in China. So the pressure that they will apply to getting their vehicles in some way through the back door into the US and the EU and Canada and all these other places will result in, I want to say, a huge ramp down in the pricing of electric vehicles. And if these vehicles do not prove to be, horrible in terms of quality control, and consumers, have warranties that they can use to keep going, I think we just end up with lower margins for everybody, including Tesla. And hopefully we finally have some bankruptcies that result in players who are at break-even pricing being sort of pushed out of the marketplace, and then we can get back to some semblance of normalcy. But I do believe that in the interim, these players who actually don't work as operating concerns are basically sort of squeezing the life out of the entire industry globally. And it's not clear how this is going to play out. Will China allow them to go bankrupt? If they don't allow them to go bankrupt, and they use state money to fund them to keep going and keep dumping vehicles, I just think it ends up being a bloodbath for everybody. So I'm hoping you have some great solution that I did not see, but I'm hopeful that we end up with, a way forward that's better and that's faster than I just described, because at present there doesn't seem to be a better solution, another solution that lurks, that represents a good opportunity for an exit from the nightmare. So we really look forward to your comments on this. Tesla's numbers come out today. I know they're going to be challenging numbers, but the EV robotaxi area seems to help to buffer the market a little bit. But now sort of Elon and Trump are getting into it again, so obviously that's a negative. So in general, I just think there are a lot of clouds over Tesla, and I just think that there are a couple of things waiting, like what's going to happen with the semi, number one, and will Elon deliver a 30K pickup / SUV that allows Tesla's sort of manufacturing might to get behind it, because a 100K vehicle, people may love, the new Cybertruck, but the way that fits on most people's balance sheet is just too expensive. So we shall see how this plays out. We're thinking positive. Would love to get your input on this. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Our health tip for today is I just wanted to encourage you to be aware of your gut biome. So I've been learning a lot about digestive process, and one of the suggestions is that an alkaline sort of bloodstream process will create the environment that's not cancer friendly, but also is very healthy for you. So that would be a research point that I wanted to encourage you to consider. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Once again, thanks for joining us. Just aval hit road hodai festival. Namaste. And in Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.